50 Cent has been working on this documentary for almost 2 years. The footage he has is insane. The people he got speaking about Diddy is ridiculous.
I uncovered every secret from the last 30 years, and I have given all the proofs of who was involved with Diddy. I have presented the videotape of Diddy's parties as evidence. Now no one can save Diddy and the other celebs. Jay-Z, all of them were Diddy's handlers. After watching the rest of the documentary, you'll understand everything.
This didn't drop like a normal documentary. It dropped like something that wasn't meant to stay hidden anymore. Because when 50 Cent releases something on Netflix, it's never just content. And this time, 50 Cent is back again, talking about Diddy, talking about Jay-Z, and talking about a side of the industry that most people never get to see, a brand new Netflix documentary. And according to 50 Cent, this one goes even deeper, because 50 Cent starts pointing towards something most people never notice. Not the main events, not the public moments. But what happens after everything ends? Late-night movements, private locations, closed-door environments where, according to insiders, things operated very differently. 50 Cent mentions Diddy. 50 Cent mentions Jay-Z again and again. Because according to 50 Cent, Diddy and Jay-Z weren't just part of what we see. They were connected to spaces where visibility didn't exist. Secret parties, private gatherings, night environments where people claim things happened that were never meant to be seen publicly. Situations involving influence, hidden relationships, and interactions that never became part of the public story. No cameras, no recordings, no proof. Just stories that never fully disappeared. And now 50 Cent is bringing all of this into a new Netflix documentary where Diddy and Jay-Z are once again at the center of everything. And before we go deeper into this, before going to deeper of this video, make sure to like this video, subscribe our channel, and hit the bell icon. That's why you never miss any new updates like this. Now let's get back, because this didn't start here. On December 2nd, 2025, 50 Cent already released a 4-part Netflix documentary where he first started pointing toward Diddy, toward Jay-Z, and toward this hidden side of the industry. After that, another documentary followed, but this time, this is a completely new documentary, a new drop, a new layer, and according to 50 Cent, this one reveals even more. Because once again, 50 Cent is talking about Diddy, 50 Cent is talking about Jay-Z, and this time, the spotlight feels even bigger than before.
No Diddy party. Are you watching the documentary on Netflix?
I don't watch it.
Hey, bro.
How crazy is it?
Yo, he's horrible.
Bro, he allegedly Pac and Biggie.
Bro, both of them.
And I believe it.
Both of them.
Bro, it's crazy.
Allegedly. Horrible.
But no one knew all this shit until the documentary came out.
It seems
I'm not gonna lie,
like
50 Cent is cooking, bro. My opinion,
Is
he's
that
cooking.
his doc?
Yeah, he produced it. He produced it, I swear.
That was the one he was gonna call Did He Do It?
Yeah.
But it's called
Bro, I'm not even joking, bro. Like, you gotta watch it.
I got
Mysterious Circumstances Involving the Deaths of Both Tupac and Biggie.
And it makes sense, because you know why? Think about it, like, Biggie and Pac were really good friends, bro. Really good friends.
Also so sad.
Diddy didn't fuck with Tupac, because Pac didn't fuck with him.
They drove a wedge between them.
Yup.
And then one day Biggie was supposed to fly to the UK for a press tour or like Europe or some shit. And Diddy was like, nah, we're not going to the UK. Like, this trip had been planned for weeks.
Yup.
He's like, nah, we're not going to the UK. Biggie's staying here. And Biggie's like, I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Europe. He's like, nah, we're staying here. We're throwing a party.
Yup.
In California.
And Biggie wanted to leave Cali. He's like, bro, I want to get the fuck out of here. I don't feel safe here. Why am I here?
Went to the party, got fucking shot that night.
Crazy.
What 50 Cent introduces here doesn't belong to the version of the industry people usually recognize. Because according to 50 Cent, the real movement didn't stop when events ended. That's when it shifted. Once the public lights faded and attention moved away, something else quietly took over. Not announced. Not scheduled, not visible, but still happening. A second phase, hidden from everything people were used to seeing. 50 Cent describes how, after official events, certain individuals didn't leave the night behind. They continued into a different environment entirely. Diddy is referenced within that transition. Jay-Z is referenced within that transition. Not as public figures exiting an event, but as names connected to what came next. According to 50 Cent, these after-hours environments didn't operate within the same space as the public industry. They existed separately, outside visibility, beyond any form of coverage. The locations weren't random. They were selected, high-end, private, and completely controlled. Entry wasn't open. It was invitation only. Outer 50 Cent suggests that these weren't places you could discover or walk into. There was no accidental presence. You either knew how to get there or you didn't belong there at all. Diddy's name appears again within that movement. Jay-Z's name appears again within that movement. Not as public personalities navigating events, but as figures associated with a part of the night that remained unseen. And what makes this even more difficult to trace, according to 50 Cent, is what didn't exist. No cameras, no recordings, no documentation. Nothing that could capture what was happening in those environments. Everything existed in real time, experienced only by those present. And once those moments passed, they didn't leave behind proof. They left behind stories. Stories that survived only through memory. It passed quietly from one person to another, without ever becoming something the public could fully see.
I know I pissed a lot of people off, including you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a full circle moment,
Yes,
everybody.
yes.
Get into adult conversation.
Yeah,
This is full circle.
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't seen you in over 15 years, but I'm not seeing wrinkles. I'm seeing good. I don't, you live a really hectic lifestyle, and I don't understand all the running around. And who are these people that you surround yourself
Yes.
with? And who are these people? Do they violate you? Do you get robbed? What happens? Now you threw a house party, and I got the footage. Okay. Look at this. Now, who has this many people at their house? Puff, and or Sean, Diddy, Doody, what do I call you?
I think you should call me Puff. You always call me Puff.
I do.
Yes.
Okay. First hurdle jumped. Jesus.
I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous to come out here.
From here, 50 Cent shifts the focus from movement and goes deeper into isolation. Because according to 50 Cent, some environments weren't just hidden. They were deliberately separated, placed far away from anything public, where attention couldn't reach, and where even proximity to the industry didn't mean access. These weren't extensions of visible events. They were entirely different settings. Diddy is brought into this part of the narrative. Jay-Z is brought into this part of the narrative. Not as figures moving through known spaces, but as names connected to environments that existed beyond public reach. 50 Cent explains that entry into these places followed a strict rule. Familiarity. Usher, you had to already be known, recognized, understood within that circle. There were no introductions, no unexpected arrivals. If your presence wasn't already accepted, you weren't getting inside. And once inside, according to 50 Cent, the structure became even more controlled. Not everyone had the same level of access. Certain areas were divided further. Private rooms where only selected individuals were allowed to enter. Spaces designed for specific interactions. Diddy's name appears again within that structure. Jay-Z's name appears again within that structure. Not as public figures navigating freely, but as individuals connected to environments where access itself was layered. 50 Cent points out that these gatherings operated completely outside visibility. No cameras, no recording devices, nothing that could capture what was happening. Everything stayed contained within those walls. And what stands out most, according to 50 Cent, is that even the conversations didn't move beyond those spaces. They weren't repeated. They weren't carried forward. They ended exactly where they happened. No trace, no continuation, just silence. Because according to 50 Cent, that silence wasn't accidental. It was part of how everything was designed to function.
I was sexually assaulted by a successful Hollywood agent. The assault lasted only minutes, but what he was effectively telling me while he held my genitals in his hand was that he held the power, that he was in control.
At this point, 50 Cent shifts the focus away from the structure of these environments and onto the people inside them. Because according to 50 Cent, what stands out isn't just where these settings existed, it's who shared them. Figures who, in public, seem completely separate. Different paths, different circles, and different identities presented to the world. Yet in these environments, that distance didn't exist. Diddy is brought into that observation. Jay-Z is brought into that observation. not as individuals operating in isolation, but as names appearing within the same space at the same time. 50 Cent suggests that once inside, the dynamic changed. There was no need to maintain a public image, no expectation to act in a way the audience would recognize. Everything became more natural, more familiar, more direct than what people were used to seeing. And within that familiarity, according to 50 Cent, something else began to form. Quiet relationships, not introduced, not defined, not explained in any official way, but still present. Diddy's name appears again within that context. Jay-Z's name appears again within that context. And not as publicly connected figures, but as individuals linked through interactions that were never openly acknowledged. 50 Cent points out that these connections never translated into visibility. No interviews, no appearances, no statements that would confirm anything to the outside world. Nothing that reflected what was actually happening in those environments. And that separation was intentional, because according to 50 Cent, personal involvement didn't need to be public to exist. Some connections were kept entirely outside the image presented to the audience, maintained quietly, hidden from attention, and never included in the version of reality people were allowed to see, leaving behind a layer of the industry that remained active, but completely unseen.
That claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah.
At this stage, 50 Cent narrows the focus even further and begins to highlight a pattern that doesn't rely on moments, but on consistency. Because according to 50 Cent, these environments weren't filled with random faces. They were defined by a tight group, a circle that remained small, controlled, and almost unchanged over time. The same individuals, appearing again and again, not by chance, but by design. Diddy is referenced within that pattern. Jay-Z is referenced within that pattern, not as occasional participants, but as names that remained connected to a group that didn't easily expand. 50 Cent suggests that within this circle, relationships didn't need to be explained. They existed without introduction, understood without discussion, unspoken, but recognized by those inside it. Diddy's name appears again within that structure. Only Jay-Z's name appears again within that structure, not as publicly linked figures, but as individuals associated through connections that were never openly defined. According to 50 Cent, these associations were maintained off record. No interviews addressed them. No confirmations clarified them. No denials removed them. They simply existed, quietly, continuing without interruption. And what makes this even more complex, according to 50 Cent, is that nothing was ever made official. No clear statements, no visible acknowledgement. Just a space where connections remained in between, not confirmed, not denied, which meant they couldn't be fully understood from the outside. But inside that circle, they didn't need to be, because when something continues without explanation for that long, it stops needing one. And according to 50 Cent, that's what made the circle different. It wasn't visible, but it was consistent, and that consistency made it impossible to ignore.
My butt hurts. That was the first thing I felt when I woke up in Diddy's bed, but I had always been unwilling to admit it. Maybe I had subconsciously known, but deep down, I just couldn't accept the fact that I had been with a man, especially under such circumstances, without even knowing about it. Many people say I've changed. Yes, that day's events felt like a nightmare that continues to haunt me. It wasn't until 50 Cent came to me with Diddy's documentary, revealing the truth and comforting me that it wasn't my fault. He told me he would ruin Diddy if I didn't want to see endless discussions online. He suggested I'd take some time to clear my mind, and after it was over, I should give myself a chance to start fresh. So I ran away. But when I saw Diddy's mother denying the documentary, claiming it was all false, I couldn't sit still anymore. She was the one who created the monster that is Diddy. But to this day, she still refuses to admit that the monster in that documentary is real. I hate her for it, but I had to come forward as a witness. It took me a lot of mental preparation to finally speak out about the darkness inside me. 50 Cent was like a hero, speaking up for us, so I can't back down and let him face the pressure alone.
At this point, 50 Cent shifts away from individuals and circles and focuses on something more structured. Because according to 50 Cent, what exists behind the industry isn't just presence, it's coordination. He suggests that certain outcomes, certain movements, and certain shifts don't happen randomly. They are guided quietly, shaped by people who operate without needing visibility. Diddy is brought into that framework. Jay-Z is brought into that framework, not as isolated figures, but as names connected to a level where influence moves without being seen. 50 Cent explains that within this layer, boundaries between roles begin to blur. Artists, executives, and investors don't always operate separately. Their interests overlap, forming networks that function behind the scenes. And within those networks, according to 50 Cent, alliances don't need to be announced. They exist without acknowledgement, maintained without exposure. Diddy's name appears again within that structure. Jay-Z's name appears again within that structure. Not as publicly aligned figures, but as individuals whose names continue to surface in discussions tied to unseen coordination. 50 Cent also highlights a contrast that becomes harder to ignore. On the surface, everything appears independent. Different identities, different directions, different public positions. But beneath that surface, there are patterns that suggest alignment may exist where it isn't expected. Subtle, unspoken, but consistent. And what gives this part more weight is what came before. Because according to 50 Cent, earlier documentaries didn't resolve these questions. They introduced them. They pointed towards something deeper, but left it unfinished. Now with this new documentary, 50 Cent doesn't close those gaps. He expands them, connecting moments that once felt separate, turning them into something that feels structured, something that suggests coordination rather than coincidence, and something that, according to him, has been operating quietly all along.
A lot of people say I'm doing this out of revenge because we've got beef. I won't deny it. Me and Diddy have had issues. We've been going at it since 2006. He blocked Mace from signing with me. I dissed him in a track. He launched the vodka line. I launched mine. It's been a back and forth for years. You know why he's so desperate to shut this film down? Because he knows we found things. Footage, phone calls, conversations he recorded himself, contracts, NDAs, real receipts. But Diddy ain't the only problem. He's just a symbol. This industry is full of people like him smiling in the spotlight while pulling strings and hurting people behind the scenes. I don't make things up.
At this stage, 50 Cent shifts the focus towards something even more controlled than influence, identity. Because according to 50 Cent, what the public sees isn't accidental. It's built. Every appearance, every move, every statement is carefully shaped to maintain a specific image, refined over time, presented with precision. Diddy is referenced within that idea. Jay-Z is referenced within that idea. Not just as public figures, but as individuals whose personas have been constructed to fit a certain narrative. But according to 50 Cent, there's always another side, a version that doesn't exist in front of cameras, a layer that remains completely separate from what the audience is shown. He suggests that certain aspects of identity are kept outside the spotlight, not because they don't exist, but because they're never meant to be part of the public image. And within that separation, questions begin to form. 50 Cent points toward rumored relationships that have circulated quietly, not confirmed, not explained, but discussed enough within certain circles to raise curiosity. Diddy's name appears again within those discussions. Jay-Z's name appears again within those discussions, not as verified situations, but as figures connected to conversations that were never fully clarified. There are also mentions, according to 50 Cent, of moments that insiders found uncomfortable, situations that didn't align with expectations, yet never moved beyond private observation. And within those conversations, certain concerns were raised, including discussions around age differences, topics that remain contained within private circles rather than becoming public. No headlines, no official statements, just awareness that stayed hidden. 50 Cent doesn't present conclusions here. He presents contrast. I think a public identity that appears complete on one side and a private reality that remains undefined on the other. And according to him, that gap is where the uncertainty continues to grow.
War has been warning us about Jay-Z. Jay-Z has now had an official lawsuit. It's everywhere. It's now being talked about louder than ever. I guess, does that give you some peace to know that people are finally really questioning this man?
It's emboldening me. I spoke on Piers Morgan. I said that I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great because he's been evading. But the thing is, everyone in the backdrop knew that he was the celebrity John Doe. Everybody knew that. They knew it when I did Piers Morgan.
Is Beyonce celebrity B?
I hope to God not. But she was around. And she's very... she's got enough on her plate. After everything that happened with the election and everything that's happening right now, I'm not going to dump on that woman. She got better fish to fry.
Well,
what I will say is that her husband, she knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
She knows. She knows.
Rihanna was trafficked to Def Jam.
She was an innocent baby when she came over here. And look
She's
at her now.
14 going on 15 years old. Flown over without parental supervision in a private plane by a man who was supposed to be a producer who auditioned her at 3 a.m. in the fucking morning in a hotel room. Auditioning at 3 a.m. in the morning, a 14-year-old girl. She was flown to another country. She was taken to Def Jam headquarters. She was left in a conference room alone with Sean Carter for nearly 6 hours alone with no parental supervision. Her father collected a $500,000 check. She has the fastest
Diddy isn't going down
deal
quietly.
in debt.
At this point, 50 Cent moves into a layer that was never meant to be visible, only discussed. Because according to 50 Cent, there were always conversations happening quietly within the industry. Not in public, not in headlines, but within networks where information moved carefully. He describes a space where certain claims were shared in low voices. Not openly, not loudly, but passed between individuals who understood the weight of what was being said. Diddy is referenced within those conversations. Jay-Z is referenced within those conversations. Not as confirmed accusations, but as names that appeared within discussions that never reached the public. 50 Cent suggests that many of these stories came from insiders, people who spoke about situations that allegedly took place behind closed doors, moments described but never formally documented. Details existed, but proof didn't. And because of that, these conversations stayed contained, circulating quietly, never expanding beyond those networks. According to 50 Cent, this created a pattern where awareness existed internally, but nothing moved outward. Diddy's name appears again within that context. Jay-Z's name appears again within that context. Not as proven cases, but as figures connected to claims that were never resolved. And what stands out most here isn't just what was being said, it's what didn't happen. No escalation, no exposure, no headlines bringing attention to it, just silence surrounding everything. Because according to 50 Cent, that silence wasn't random. It was what kept these conversations exactly where they were, present, but never fully seen.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose their sources.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's going to say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time. My favorite villain? I kind of like Diddy.
At this stage, 50 Cent shifts the focus towards something that defines everything else. Who gets in and who doesn't. Because according to 50 Cent, access to these environments was never open. It wasn't about fame, popularity, or public recognition. It was about control. He explains that certain figures held the ability to decide who could enter these spaces. Not everyone at the same level had the same access. Some were allowed in, others were kept out, no matter who they were publicly. Diddy is referenced within that structure. Jay-Z is referenced within that structure, not just as participants, but as names connected to a level where entry itself could be influenced. 50 Cent suggests that invitations carried weight. They weren't casual or random. They acted as a gate, a filter, determining who belonged inside those environments and who remained outside of them. And without that invitation, there was no entry. Once inside, according to 50 Cent, relationships operated differently. Connections existed that were never presented publicly, yet continued to be maintained within those spaces. Diddy's name appears again within that context. Jay-Z's name appears again within that context. Not as publicly connected figures, but as individuals linked through bonds that were never acknowledged outside those environments. When 50 Cent points out that these connections didn't rely on visibility, they didn't need confirmation or recognition, they existed privately, maintained quietly, and understood only by those involved. But within that system, something else becomes clear: imbalance. Because when access is controlled by a few, everyone else moves within that structure. Interactions aren't equal. Opportunities aren't equal. Everything is shaped by those who hold authority. According to 50 Cent, that imbalance didn't need to be explained. It was felt, it influenced behavior, and it defined how people operated inside those environments. Because in the end, power wasn't just influence, it was permission.
They didn't stop asking me, and then I just froze and I don't even remember. And I will not say his name. I understand this Me Too movement. I understand that some people feel really comfortable with this, and I do not. I do not ever want to face that person again.
At this point, 50 Cent steps back from individual moments and looks at the bigger timeline. Because according to 50 Cent, and what makes all of this harder to ignore isn't just what's being said, it's how often it comes back. He explains that across different years, similar types of stories have resurfaced. Not identical, not connected directly, but carrying the same themes every time they appear again. Diddy is referenced within that repetition. Jay-Z is referenced within that repetition. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. 50 Cent suggests that even when these conversations fade, they don't disappear completely. They move out of focus, only to return later, sometimes through different voices, sometimes through different situations. But the core remains the same, and each time they return, they feel familiar. Not because they've been confirmed, but because they follow the same pattern. Diddy's name appears again within that cycle. Now, Jay-Z's name appears again within that cycle, not as new mentions, but as names that remain connected over time. 50 Cent points out that this repetition creates a different kind of question, because when the same themes continue to surface and the same names continue to appear alongside them, it becomes less about individual situations and more about why the pattern exists at all, why it continues, why it never fully disappears, and why, no matter how much time passes, it finds its way back into the conversation again. According to 50 Cent, that's where the real focus begins. Not on one moment, but on the pattern that refuses to stop.
I'm going to take your souls. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
At this point, 50 Cent shifts the focus towards something that kept everything in place for years: pressure. Because according to 50 Cent, these discussions didn't just stay hidden on their own, they were kept there. He explains that for a long time, certain conversations existed quietly inside entertainment circles. Not public, not visible, but known among those who were close enough to hear them. Diddy is referenced within that awareness. Jay-Z is referenced within that awareness, not as public controversies, but as names connected to discussions that never fully surfaced. 50 Cent suggests that alongside those whispers, there were also concerns. Not always spoken openly, but present enough to be recognized within those environments. Concerns about individuals entering spaces they didn't fully understand. Situations where influence outweighed experience. Moments that raised questions, but never reached public attention. And according to 50 Cent, the reason those concerns stayed hidden was simple. Protection, not accidental, intentional. Because speaking about these things came with consequences. Reputations could be damaged. Positions could be lost. Access could disappear. So instead of exposure, there was silence. Diddy's name appears again within that system. Jay-Z's name appears again within that system. Not as openly challenged figures, but as individuals whose names remain inside conversations that stayed controlled. But now, according to 50 Cent, that system is starting to shift. Because once this documentary is released, those conversations don't stay inside anymore. They move outward, reaching a wider audience. And with that comes attention. More eyes, more questions, more discussion. What once remained contained is now being looked at publicly. And what was once protected is now being examined. Diddy is brought back into that spotlight. Jay-Z is brought back into that spotlight. And this time, the attention doesn't come from inside the system. It comes from everywhere. Because according to 50 Cent, once a system built on silence begins to face scrutiny, it can't stay the same.
I am the fucking hardest hustler in the world. This is Savage Part 2. Don't tell me about shit. It's 2022 and I'm still a savage. Whatever I want, I get. Whatever I want, I fucking get.
At this point, 50 Cent brings everything into focus and places attention exactly where it has been leading. Because according to 50 Cent, after all the layers, all the patterns, all the conversations, the same names keep returning. Diddy, Jay-Z, again and again. He explains that it's not just about how often their names appear, it's where they appear, within discussions tied to environments that were never public. One within conversations connected to spaces most people never get to see. And that's where the questions begin. Why do Diddy and Jay-Z continue to be linked to these settings? Why do their names keep surfacing whenever these topics are brought up? 50 Cent doesn't provide direct answers. He emphasizes the consistency. Diddy is mentioned, Jay-Z is mentioned, not as background figures, but as central points within a narrative that keeps building around them. He also suggests that influence plays a role in shaping how these environments function. Because according to 50 Cent, spaces like these don't operate on their own. They are influenced by those who hold power, those who can shape access, those who can influence how everything operates. Diddy's name appears again within that context. Jay-Z's name appears again within that context. Not as publicly defined roles, but as figures connected to a level of influence that continues to be referenced. 50 Cent also points toward rumors that have linked these names to circles that were never openly acknowledged, not confirmed, not explained, but consistently mentioned in ways that keep them tied to the same discussions. And what makes this moment more important is that none of this is entirely new. Because according to 50 Cent, these conversations existed before. Hints were there, references were made, but never brought into full focus like this. Now he revisits those discussions, not to repeat them, but to highlight them more clearly. Diddy at the center, Jay-Z at the center, and 50 Cent making sure that this time, the attention stays right there.
I know I pissed a lot of people off, including you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a full circle moment, everybody.
Yes.
Get into adult conversation.
Yes,
This
yes.
is full circle.
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't seen you in over 15 years, but I'm not seeing wrinkles. I'm seeing good. I don't, you live a really hectic lifestyle, and I don't understand all the running around, and who are these people that you surround yourself with, and who are these people? Do they violate you? Do you get robbed? What happens? Now, you threw a house party, and I got the footage, okay? Look at this. Now, who has this many people at their house? Puff, and or Sean, Diddy, Doody, what do I call you?
I think you should call me Puff. You always call me Puff.
I do.
Yes.
Okay. First hurdle jumped. Jesus.
I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous to come out here.
And this is where everything shifts. Because according to 50 Cent, What once existed quietly within limited circles is no longer staying there. It's been brought forward, placed directly onto Netflix, not as fragments, not as scattered conversations, but as something structured, something visible, something the entire world can now access at the same time. 50 Cent takes discussions that lived in the background for years and turns them into a global narrative. Diddy is brought into that exposure. Jay-Z is brought into that exposure, not as passing mentions, but as names placed within a story now reaching millions. And once that happens, the reaction changes immediately. According to 50 Cent, viewers don't just watch, they start looking back. Old moments, past interviews, or previous appearances, everything begins to be re-examined from a new perspective. Diddy's name starts circulating again. Jay-Z's name starts circulating again. Not because something new is happening in real time, but because attention has been redirected. And that attention spreads across platforms, across audiences, across conversations that begin forming independently. 50 Cent suggests that once a discussion reaches this level, it no longer stays controlled. It becomes public. And with that comes renewed media focus. Topics that were once overlooked are now being approached again, not as isolated mentions, but as part of a larger narrative. Diddy is placed back into that spotlight. Jay-Z is placed back into that spotlight. And this time the attention doesn't fade quickly, because according to 50 Cent, once something moves from hidden discussion to global visibility, it doesn't return to where it was, it expands, it grows, and it forces a side of the industry that was never meant to be seen into full view.